Irony of the life is that remember those days when people used to write diaries and got mad when someone read them without their permission of the person who have written the diary. But now the people just put everything on Facebook and get mad when the people do not read them. Now, nomenclature of parasites for medical purpose, most important names are of genus and species. It means way of the naming the parasites. Number one are the common names like pinworm, roundworm, tapeworm, whipworm, and threadworm. Number two are the scientific names. The names are from Greek and the Latin terminology, and these are usually binomial. That means have two parts. One part is of genus and the second is of species. Genus start with capital word, species with a small but always written in italics. Antrobius vermicularis, Ascaris lumbricoides, Plasmodium falciparum, and Giardia lamblia are the examples. Now, types of the parasites on the basis of their location. Number one is endoparasites, as endo mean inside. So these lives inside body of the host, parasite that lives within another living organism like intestine, blood, tissue, etc. Protozoa, helminths like malarial parasite and giardia. Ectoparasites, ecto mean outside, a parasite that lives on external surface of the body of the another living organism. The examples are lice, mite, ticks. Number three is temporary parasites which visits the host for a short time but do not live permanently to complete their life cycle. Permanent parasite which lives in or on body of the host for the whole life of its life cycle. As one can see, the endoparasites which live inside, and these are the ectoparasite, they live outside. These are the ticks and the mites, and here one can see the ectoparasite outside the body and the endoparasites which are inside the body, that is in the eye, loa, that lives inside the body parts. Now, number five of the endoparasite type is obligatory parasite. They cannot exist outside the host body and die due to the lack of the shelter and nutrition. And obligate means it can live only in a host and to take shelter and nourishment from there. These are Toxoplasma gondii. The sixth type is facultative parasite. They can live as parasite and independent outside the host body because facultative means it can live both in a host and in the free form. These are the Naegleria fowleri and Acanthamoeba species. Number seven is free living parasites. These can live freely in the soil like the hookworm. So, as one can see the different type of the obligate parasite, facultative parasite, ectoparasite, endoparasite. Then there are certain other types. These are the mesoparasite, epiparasite, broad parasite, and social parasite. But medically, these are the obligate, facultative, ecto, and endoparasites are important. Number eight of the type of endoparasite is opportunistic parasite. These attack when the host defense of the person is compromised, mean the host is immunocompromised, as one can see in case of intestinal coccidiosis in HIV infection. Number 9, accidental parasites. The parasites have gone into the wrong host by the accident, but they are not able to grow into the adult form because it is not their true host and definite host. So they have to live as just the part of their life. And these are Echinococcus granulosus causing the hydrated cyst. Number 10 is aberrant parasite. It means the wrong host, but they can grow into the adult also. That is Toxocara canis in man, which is basically have to live in the dogs and the other carnivores. Now, the types of the parasite according to the site of the invasion. First are intestinal parasite. These are Entamoeba histolytica, Giardia lamblia, Tinea saginata, Ascaris lumbricoides, Antrobius vermicularis, S. stercoralis, then Trichuris trichura, Achylostoma duodenale, Trichomonas hominis, and Balentidial coli. Now, the hemoparasites mean the parasite which are found in the blood. These are the Plasmodium species, Leishmania donovani, Trypanosoma species, Vaucheria bancrofti, Berulia malaya, Loa loa, and Manzanella species. Now, urinary parasites, these are Schistosoma hematobium, Schistosoma mansoni, Trichomonas vaginalis, Vaucheria bronchitis, O. volvulus, Onchocerus volvulus, and the parasite which are found in the skin. These are the Leishmania species, O. Onchocerus volvulus, and D. medinensis, and Antrobius vermicularis. Parasite which are found in the CSF, these are the Trypanosoma species, Naegleria fowleri, and the parasites in the sputum are Paragonymous species, and the parasites found in the muscle are Trichinella. Now, there are certain parasites which have been found in the aspirates. So, when you take the bone marrow aspirate, one can have Leishmania donovani, Leishmania infantum, Plasmodium falciparum, and T. brucei. Similarly, when you get the lymph gland aspirate, one can have the Trypanosoma species, Leishmania donovani, Leishmania infantum, and T. gondii. In case of the liver aspirate, one can have Entamoeba histolytica, Leishmania donovani, Leishmania infantum, and in case of spleen aspirate, one can have Leishmania donovani, Leishmania infantum, and in duodenal aspirate, Giardia lamblia, Fasciola hepatica, and S. stercoralis. Now, coming to the life cycle of the parasite, it is the process of the parasite's growth, development, and reproduction. It occurs in one or different hosts depending on the species of the parasite. So the number 1 is infective stage, when a parasite invade human body and live in it. The number 2 is infective route, the specific entrance through which parasite invades the human body. The third is alteration of the generation, and the third is infective mood, how the parasite invade the host, like Cercaria of the blood flukes, penetrate the skin of the man, and infective Ascaris eggs are swallowed by the man. The next is alteration of the generation. In the life cycles of the some parasites, there are regular alteration of the sexual or asexual reproduction, like that is the alteration of the generation, for example, life cycle of the Plasmodium vivax. The next life cycle is mechanical transmission. The arthropods cause transportation of the pathogens which cause disease transmission, like flies carry the typhoid bacilli, Ascaris eggs, and amoebic cyst. The next is biological transmission. The pathogens send part of their life cycle. They spend part of their life cycle in the vector arthropods, and where they multiply, develop into the infective stage, and then when they are quite mature to live in the another host, they invade the human body, such as Anopheles mosquito transmit the malaria. Now, the types of the life cycle, there are two types of the life cycle. One is direct life cycle, when a parasite requires only one species of the host to complete its development. The examples are Entamoeba histolytica, Ascaris lumbricoides, Giardia lamblia, and Antrobius vermicularis. The other is indirect life cycle, when a parasite requires two or more species of the host to complete its development. The examples are Plasmodium species, as it lives in the mosquito and in the human being. Then Leishmania species, Trypanosoma species, and the Taenia species. Here one can see the direct life cycle if the parasite lives in the fish. Sorry, lives in the fish and thus produce the larva and the eggs, and these are again going to invade the fish to complete the direct life cycle. But here, the indirect life cycle, the fish is the definite host, but these larvae and eggs are just taken by some invertebrates which work as the intermediate host. These invertebrates are being taken up by this fish along with these eggs and the larva, and these are going to complete their life cycle inside the fish. So that is the indirect life cycle. Now, routes of the transmission of the parasite. Number one is the congenital transmission, that is from mother to the infant, like toxoplasmosis. It is also called vertical transmission from the mother to the kid. Contact transmission, there is direct contact like Trichomonas vaginalis during the sexual intercourse, indirect contact like Ascaris lumbricoides through the fingers of the child. The third is food transmission, infectious stage of the parasites contaminate food or the meat of the intermediate host, and that is taken as the part of the food to carry the infective stage of larva or the eggs. That is being used by the humans to complete its cycle in the human being. The other route of transmission is blood, that is by blood-sucking insects containing the infective parasites bite the skin and inject the parasites in the human blood, as the arthropod transmission by the mosquito, the malaria do spread. This is the contradiction of the Muslim society. The woman is wearing the Islamic dress and having this typical of the English people, and this is just the contradiction. Now, continuing the routes of the transmission, the next is water transmission. One do drink or contact water contaminated with infectious stage of the parasite. Food and water both collectively are called digestive tract avenue, and that is the most common avenue of the entrance of the parasite in the body. Then the next is soil transmission, contamination of the soil by the feces containing certain stages of the parasite which can develop into the adult parasite. It can have even the eggs which do pass in the feces to contaminate the soil, and one can have it to the transmitted to the human body. The next is arthropod transmission, that is the vectors. Arthropods are responsible for the spread of the certain parasitic disease. The best example is the malarial parasite. Then the skin infective larva perforate skin and reach body and cause infection. The Cercaria larva is able to penetrate the skin and perforate to reach. So here are the route of transmission: sexually transmitted, orally transmitted, through the vector or arthropod transmission. Then in case of some organ has been transplanted that do have the parasites, and similarly the blood transfusion is there, and that is from the mother to the kid, that is congenital, and transplacental or the vertical transmission. Then work accident in the laboratory, one can have the break in the skin and can get the parasite inside the body of the person who is doing the work. Now, the different harmful aspect of the parasite on the human body. Number one, they are depriving nourishment from the host, like the hookworm suck blood and the causing anemia. Mechanical effect of the parasite on the host tissues and the organs, that is biliary ascariasis, amoebiasis, and the larva migraines cause perforation or obstruction in the certain organs like intestine and other. Then toxic effect: mosquitoes, spiders, and the ticks introduce the venom when they do bite the skin with their mouth parts and transmit their venom into the human body. This causes proteolytic enzyme necrosis. The next is immunopathological lesion. Schistosoma and echinococcus cause anaphylaxis when hydrated fluid is released by the rupture of a hydrated cyst. Then, a human immunity against the parasite, it is an intensity and the specificity are usually at the lower level than produced by the bacteria and the viruses, and it is called non-sterilizing immunity, which is called pre-immunization or concomitant immunity. It means the host is protected from the superinfection of another parasite as long as the parasites remain in the body. It is important in the endemic area to limitize the severity of the infection with Plasmodium, schistosome, hookworms, and other parasites. Now, the pathology of the parasite is that the protozoal infection results in the tissue damage leading to the chronic disease by an immune response to the parasite as the body do give. So the toxic products or to the mechanical damage done to the host. So there is immune response to these parasites. There is hypersensitivity that cause blood hyperviscosity, edema, and hypotension. Immune complexes are seen circulating in the serum, and they do deposit in the kidneys and the other tissues of the body, causing the damage, as it is seen in case of the malaria and the African trypanosomiasis. There is antibody mediated autoimmunity, and the autoantibodies produced, they cause the pathology as they exert a direct cytotoxic effect on the host cell, and they build up antigen antibody complexes in the tissues, as in the T. cruzi infection. Cellular hypersensitivity is also observed. Various host cell products, cytokines, hypokines, are produced as host cell products. These are released from the cells of the immune system, causing the pathogenesis. Tumor necrosis factor TNF released by the lymphocyte cause muscle wasting and cachexia in parasitic infection. In Leishmania donovani infection, cerebral malaria in Plasmodium falciparum is also seen because of these different cytokines and lymphokines. Mediators released in resistance to the protozoan parasite also cause the pathology, as the body is resisting this parasitic infection, and they release certain mediators which are proteases and the phospholipases released when the parasite lies. These are also going to cause host cell destruction. Parasite release an endotoxin sometime, which is indole catabolites during the antibody mediated lysis, and which are responsible for causing fever and lethargy in case of parasitic infection. Now, there are certain escape mechanisms. These are also called immune escape strategies, by which the parasite avoid killing by the host, the immune system of the host, in an immunocompetent host. That is, in antigenic masking, the parasite becomes coated with the host components and so fails to be recognized as the foreign, because the body defense is unable to differentiate between the host cells and the attacking cells. In blocking, non-cytotoxic antibody combines with the parasite antigens and inhibit binding of the cytotoxic antibodies or the cells. So by blocking that, the parasite are able to remain inside the body. The parasite may pass part of its life cycle in an intracellular location, so that what happens, they live in the erythrocytes or the macrophages, in which it is sheltered from the intracellular digestion, and they evade the immunity of the host. And from the cytotoxic action of the antibody or the lymphocytes, which are capable of killing if they are not intracellular. Next, some parasites practice antigenic variation. They alter their surface antigens, and they deceive the body's defense system during course of an infection, and thus evading host immune response. Next is, the parasite may cause immunosuppression, so reducing the host immune response toward these parasites, either to the parasite specifically or to the foreign antigen in general. Now, coming to the diagnosis of the parasitic infection, first is physician suspicion, which requires the knowledge of the biology of the parasites properly. Then, laboratory reports as sign and symptoms are sometimes non-specific, not giving the proper clue, as blood complete for the eosinophilia can help also. And most common parasites are enteric, living in the digestive tract. So the microscopic and macroscopic recognition of the ova or the larva in the feces, urine, blood, or the tissues are going to have a lot help. Culture have little role, but nowadays this culture technique is being used for the Trichomonas vaginalis and and amoeba histolytica infections. Immunodiagnostic or the serological tests are useful in extraintestinal amoebiasis, visceral larva migraines, and trichinosis, mean the infection which is just somewhere else and from the blood. And the serological test, we can have the suspicion of their presence in the body. Then X-rays like contrast radiography, MRI, and diagnostic endoscopy nowadays in certain cases are also helpful. As one can see the signs of the parasites which they are going to cause, these are going to cause the fogging of the brain, weak memory, fatigue, dark circles under the eyes because of the anemia, stomach problems, then headache and anxiety and depression, and prone to infection, skin problems, and the weight issues. These are all the signs that someone is going to have the parasite in the body. Now, what is the treatment of this parasitic infection is adequate nutrition so that to combat the invader, and medical supportive antibiotics, antiparasitic drugs, and chemotherapy in certain cases, and ultraviolet radiation in certain cases, and surgical removal as in case of the hereditary cyst and other problem which need surgery. That is a part of the treatment. So one can have these medicine which are being used mostly albendazole and mebendazole. Now, the prevention and the control of the parasitic infection. Number one, reduction in sources and the carriers, that controlling the source of infection, mass screening of the public, and treatment of the patients, carriers, and the reservoir host so that they can not spread to the other non-infected person. Number two is destruction, control of the reservoir host and the vectors, that is intervention at the root of the transmission, vector control, insecticide, impregnated bed nets to avoid the malaria, spraying of the houses with residual insecticide, and managing feces and the water sources, so proper clean water, controlling or eliminating water and the intermediate host responsible for transmitting the infection. And the third is education, protecting the susceptible host, paying attention to the personal hygiene, and changing bad eating habits, taking the medicine at the proper time. That is all comes in the awareness of the parasitic infection. And that is the end of the lecture regarding the introduction to the parasitology. I have given as much as possible, and I hope you will like. If you like, please subscribe my lecture and share it with others. And if you have any question or query, please ask me and do not hesitate. And thank you very much for watching and to be with me. Thank you.